Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Something a little different today. I've got a little story to tell you. And the reason why, for me, this is why I do all my own maintenance. My brother-in-law and his wife have a Toyota 2010 RAV4, I think it's a V6 model. And anyway, we had some bearing noise on the outside passenger side, the front passenger side. There was a bearing, so I said, I think it sounds like a bearing. Anyway, I didn't have too much time to help him with it, so he shot it over to a repair shop. Now it's a franchise. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to be, this is a particular shop I'm referring to, and the rest of the franchise I'm sure is fine. But anyway, they gave him a bid for a couple of bearings for a RAV4, around $850. It seemed awfully high to me, and I looked into it, and the bearings to a RAV4 is not really that hard to do. It comes in a unit, the hub, and my brother-in-law was able to do one side very quickly in about an hour and a half or something like that, and the other side quicker. Anyway, so he decided he wasn't going to do the work, and he pulled the car out of there. Anyway, so when he was on his way to work in that car, just after he'd done the passenger side bearing, he noticed that the driver's side had a lot of noise, and I figured when he talked to me about it, that was just that it was showing up more because the other one was good. It turns out he got out because the noise got really loud, and turns out they hadn't done the lug nuts up properly on the front driver's side, to the point where 2 or 3 lug nuts were literally hanging off. There was one that was slightly tight and one was finger tight. So anyway, he was able to tie them. He phoned them and told them about this. And I understand that these things can slip by certain shops. I totally understand that. But it's something he wanted them to be aware of. He wasn't trying to get anything out of them. He just wanted to let them know. Anyway, in that, they offered him a free alignment after all said and done, because the car needed an alignment. So I said, take him up on it. So he did that. Now, go back about 6 months. He had replaced, with a friend of his who is a competent mechanic, has his own rack and everything, they'd replaced the tie rods, the outer tie rods of this car, and a few other miscellaneous things. But they put new tie rods on it, and obviously set it up as close as they could, and then sent it to an alignment shop, a different shop altogether. And there was still something not quite right, but it didn't feel right. Anyway, so when he took it back to get the alignment done to this large chain, they called him back up and they said, your tie rods are broken. And my first thought was, tie rod can't be broken. They wouldn't have been able to drive it into the shop. That was my first feeling. And then as the story unfolded throughout the day, they then said that the threads of the tie rods had damaged the steering rack, and so badly that they need a new steering rack. And I said, something's wrong here. So, and they were quoting an astronomical amount of money. So I said, pull it back and bring it back to the shop. And this was last night. So it came in on a truck, and it was deposited here at the shop. And so I wanted to show you what I found, and it kind of shocked me, really. I was quite surprised. Now, I'm not familiar with the Toyota RAV4 or any of those cars, but a lot of the principles are the same, the way the tie rods operate and adjust and all that good stuff. So let me take you to the bench and I'll show you what I found. This is off of the passenger side of the car. Obviously, this is the outer tie rod that they'd replaced about 6 months ago. Very standard, the little castle nut with a cotter pin goes through. And this is the inner tie rod that goes into the steering rack. Okay, so let me try and get this clear for you. So obviously, this is a fixed point. The steering is centered. This is bolted in. There's a ball joint here. Okay. This inner tie rod screws to the outer tie rod, okay, and there's a lock nut here, all right, and this is obviously on the steering knuckle, okay. So when they set this up, my buddy, they got as close as darn it and sent it to the alignment shop. So what's happened? When I first took the wheel off and looked at this, as you notice, this boot, look at it, it's all twisted. Now this is the same on both sides, okay? It's all twisted and gimped up, okay? Now that's bad enough, but you can see on this bar here, there's a little, you know, cut out like hexagon, just like a nut there for the adjustment. You loosen the lock nut, and then you make your adjustment to, you know, align or get the correct alignment. And that's fine, that's pretty logical. So this is what I think's happened, okay? So this is fixed in now, that's into the steering rack. This is a fixed point, obviously. The adjustment's here. Now, what I think's happened in the alignment shop, they haven't even undone these clamps here to relieve tension on this boot. That's why it's all twisted. They started making their adjustment here. But at the same time, what they were doing when they were making that adjustment on here, this end started unscrewing itself from the steering rack. Now obviously this has got a square type nut shape to it here, so what you're supposed to do, I'm assuming, tell me if I'm wrong, is hold this to make sure this doesn't unscrew, right? This bar will pivot on there because there's a ball joint there, so then you can make your adjustments this way and that. This is secure, that's secure, and then reclamp your boot, you know, in the correct position, so it's not all gimped and twisted like that. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's ridiculous. And anyway, when I pulled this out last night, this thread was probably only about 2 turns into the steering rack and was wobbling all over the place. And so that's one thing, okay, that's bad enough. So, and they've done this both sides. These boots are all twisted and gimped up, right? So, okay, so that was the first alignment shot. So then he goes to this big major conglomerate, not conglomerate, but you know, a big chain that we've all heard of in the States, specialising in alignments, brakes, tyres, all that stuff. He takes it to them, they said it's not right, you know, there's something wrong. They tell him that he's got a broken tie rod, which this isn't. This is perfect, everything's perfect, and then he's going to need a new steering rack as well. So, you know me, you guys, I'm pretty diligent and look carefully at stuff. I can't see anything broken on here whatsoever, and on top of that, they said these threads were destroyed. They were completely mushed up, and these threads had damaged the female portion of the steering rack. Now, if you can see, there's nothing wrong with those threads. They're completely perfect. There's nothing wrong with those. And likewise on the steering rack, there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm pretty miffed, to be honest with you. So it's over here today. He's coming over in a minute. And we're going to reinstall this. I've been trying to find a new boot. Luckily this isn't split. I think what I might do is take this off and try and reform it into some warm hot water or something, reinstall it proper. But it's very irritating that not only was it done wrong, but this is going to be very dangerous. So their adjustment, to recap, their adjustment that they were making here to do the alignment, they hadn't undone this, and this was undoing itself from the steering rack. Very dangerous and really irritating. So really the moral of the story is do your own stuff as best you can, but if you have obviously recommendations to a good shop, you know, if they're doing the alignment work, you know, good local shop, you know, I would go to more of a mum and pup type store myself. I'm not dissing on all the big chains. I'm sure there's a lot of diligent guys out there, but this is a bad experience. And again, 2 shops really, the first alignment shop and then the second one trying to pull the wool over their eyes, con them into new tie rods. Like literally this is new and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing, there's no split boot or anything. There's no damaged threads. There's nothing wrong with this tie rod. It's very irritating. So anyway, let me go and take you over to the other side on the driver's side and I'll show you on that one. Okay, this is the driver's side obviously. And again, you can see that boot all twisted there? Yeah, they've done exactly the same on this side, and I'm not taking this side off just yet because I want a reference point, even though this is not correct. I want a reference point of straight ahead, so I'll put the wheel back on, measure over to the other one and get an approximation of the length and everything that needs to be. Then we'll take that one off. But you can see that even the hose clamp ring they've got is kind of way too long. I know that's a small point, but it just seems sloppy to me. That big tab hanging out like that. But you can see it's been twisted, so I wouldn't be surprised if that inner tie rod where it connects to the steering rack has undone itself as well, because they were making the adjustment here. There you get focused. They were making the adjustment there, right there, and the darn bar was not, because it's quite a stiff ball joint at that end, so it started to undo itself. Very dangerous and quite annoying actually. Before I go, I did disconnect the inner tie rod to the outer tie rod, marked it. We've got about 23.5 rotations out, just to give me an approximation how many to go in. I made a little mark on here from the starting point, but just to be on the, you know, thorough side to make sure, because he was told, as I say, damaged threads, and just to make sure they weren't referring to different threads. The only two threads, really, this one and this one. So this one is fine, as we know, but look at this one. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. See, those threads on the inside to the outside is also perfect. Very annoying. So I know we're off track a little bit from Mercedes today, but this is another reason I do my own maintenance, to be honest with you. Not only to save money and I enjoy it, but I have my Land Rover that my mum drives right now, and years ago I wasn't doing as much stuff. I'd do the odd thing, but one time I thought, you know, I'll get them to do the oil change. Changed the oil, drove to another store, came out, and there's oil dripping from the bottom of the Land Rover. They hadn't even done up the oil filter properly, and it was just pouring out. So anyway, there you go. So anyway, another little reason why I like to do my own maintenance, really. So thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe, like and share and all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Alright, take care, bye bye.